What is happening, budget builders, and welcome back to the Firebird Formula Rescue. If you're just joining us, welcome. We're glad to have you. This is a 1978 Firebird Formula that we dragged out of a field where it'd been for years. We got this thing running. We got it fairly dialed in, and then we decided to do some power adders. We went through and did a few upgrades on that small block 350. And then at that point, the automatic just wasn't right for this car. So we yanked it out of there and we threw a 4-speed in it. And it is a really, really fun cruiser. Over the past few months, we've been piecing together some important things for this car. All of the interior stuff, some exterior things. We got a parts car for a little bit better posi rear end. And then something fell in our laps, and I think it's gonna make this thing really fun. We're going backwards on this episode and yanking the small block Chevy out of this Pontiac, and we're gonna be putting a rowdy 455 big cube Pontiac in it. Let's build the ultimate Pontiac Firebird street machine. No matter what we did to it, it's a great driver, but this car just doesn't deserve to be a small block Chevy. We ended up purchasing a 69 Pontiac Grand Prix for a parts car. It could have potentially been rescued. It actually was a really nice car, but it was a parts only, non-rebuildable car. The roof was completely gone. The interior was roached, but there was a ton of really good parts, and they actually went all out and all around, save other cars that needed rescuing. And with that being said, we purchased it. We sold everything basically off of it, made a little bit, and we've got a free 455.
What in the world did Dad show up with? What do you got? 69 Grand Prix Model J. Extra spicy interior. Bringing back memories. Oh, it's the same one. Remember, you pull that twice.
Good?
Yep. All right. Oh boy. Look at that. Hey! The only thing I don't like is seeing that intake there. What if it's like some old 2-barrel? It didn't take much heat at all under here. Check those out. Long HO400 manifolds. Dad just pulled up. There's 2 sets on eBay right now. Not sold, obviously, nothing sold. One for $1,300 and one for $2,000. Take the manifolds off and the car's paid for. I'm sort of at the point where I think all of these cars were scavenged for parts, big engines, because this is a 71 455. Now, we don't know anything about it. With 6X heads, it might be hopped up pretty good. But just like the 68 we had a 72 400 in it. This is a lot better than that was, but still a little disheartening. Was hoping for that 69 350 horse 400 or 390 horse 428. It's obviously just running. Fuel lines look good. It was just an interior burn. I want to throw a jumper on the distributor here. The battery actually has a good charge on it. Let's try to turn this thing over. See if it'll fire off.
She's got a fat cam in her. And on the motor, but it turned out really good. I was nervous. I think we're out of gas.
stinks.
Having everything. Took the opportunity to go ahead and paint here where the engine sits so we can get our new motor mounts put in. Well, I think we figured out why they make these crazy little wrenches. Whoever thought that was a good idea? Put in the nuts. Not nut certs, but you actually have to get to them up inside the frame. A little crazy. We, of course, pulled those Edelbrock valve covers off. Definitely not our favorites, and we have another set going on. With that being said, before we go back in the car with this thing, it's got to be cleaned up a little bit and resprayed. Originally, the Pontiac motors in these had the blue that this was at one point in time. You can see that kind of Mopar-ish blue look. I guess it would be like an early Ford blue kind of, sort of. But our favorite is that metallic blue Pontiac. It's already been painted that one time. We're gonna clean this thing up. We're gonna spray everything down. One thing I do notice, I love getting those valve covers off. Look how nice that is. Brand new rockers, springs, everything. You can see brand new gaskets down in there. The heads have been gone through. It's obvious this thing went through the full machining and looks really good. Let's go ahead and get it cleaned up and let's get it sprayed. And then I do want to drain this oil and I want to get a camera up in there. Let's take a look at the inside. Maybe we can see if it has anything aftermarket, anything else aftermarket other than the cam before we close and seal everything back up. We pulled off the Grand Prix motor mounts, and that is because we've got to use these Trans Am or Firebird specific ones. And with those motor mounts on the car, the brackets here on the engine, this thing's ready to set down in. Torque. Just wanted to look down this bore. Look how nice that cross hatching is. Brand new piston in there. Huge. Oh my goodness. Look how big that valve is. They're cut into the... Holy moly. Look at that. You see that intake valve?
It's got a Windows tray. Yep, we aren't seeing anything.
One huge draw of this car obviously was how incredibly solid this thing is. We've got a few spots in the rear floorboard, a couple spots here in the front floorboard, but you can see the rocker is perfect. I scraped out the seam sealer of the seams and it's beautiful down in there, all original primer and everything. Take care of what needs to be taken care of. If it doesn't need to be addressed, we don't address it because it's really nice otherwise. A couple small spots in that rear driver side. The front driver side is absolutely perfect though, which is crazy because they're normally gone. One other thing we're going to do while we're in here is I want to get that tunnel cover put in and cleaned up, everything on the inside cleaned up there, get this tacked and welded into place. And I'll show you why we're doing that in the meantime. I think you have an idea of where we're going. We need to remove these too. We have to do this while the engine's out. The headers were right in the way here. Let's get it taken care of. I've been putting it off because in a car, welding, cutting, hitting the most fun. We've got to do it. Let's get it done. And then we get this engine dropped in place. Careful. Too easy. Yeah, buddy. Good enough. Can't tell, this is our first time trying a little nibbler here. I like that there's not a ton of sparks, but there's a whole lot of gnarly metal. there you have it. I was not a huge fan of that gnarly hole that we had stuck in where the shifter was. These were only $30. I was like, wow, let's go ahead and put a 4-speed tunnel in here. And if you can't tell, we decided to cut off the mounts for the center console. I think we're gonna go center console-less. They're quite expensive. We can convert the automatic one. They just really don't look right. And I do like the look of a simple interior. So just have the boot right here, the shifter coming up, that Hurst shifter. I think it's gonna look pretty good. And then there's our floorboard. Not perfect, but super, super solid, welded in all the way around. I don't think there's any point in grinding or cleaning up, really. I laid it out the best I could. I think we go over with coating, and it should look pretty good in there. And it's super solid. So our front floorboards now are super, super solid. That took all day though. I think we'll address the rears just a little bit later, maybe next week. But for now, let's get this thing cleaned up because it's time to start thinking about sticking that engine in here.
Won't be needing that anymore.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, no lining up whatsoever. Why didn't you put it in that hole?
Nobody said put it in that hole.
I guess we should have looked. At least that's pretty easy to do.
You can hear the difference there as we bottom out. One thing we have to have with a manual setup in this engine, since we're getting away from the automatic, is obviously a pilot bearing for the input shaft on the transmission. Okay. headers. If you know Pontiac stuff, people want quite a bit for crusty old used things like headers. Summit actually had these. Summit's right down below us. We get everything next day, and they were only like $360. Specific for the car headers, that's pretty darn good. The cheapest ones I found elsewhere online were like $600–700. So for them to send us these out for almost half that price, pretty cool. And we can get these things slid in here, and I think they'll look pretty good.
I love headers, but I sure don't like them.
I hate putting them in. They are aggravating. Well, they use up all your space. And
Oh, they look good though, don't they?
yeah, they sound good. I would love a tinny sound. They were 3/8.
You were talking. I caught him talking.
That's good.
Hey, those don't look too bad, do they? Just a little bit of firewall clearance right there. A couple taps. We got to run the Z-bar through. We did have to pull the oil adapter here and then obviously lift the motor mount, but they're in there. They look pretty good. Yeah. Wow, this is gonna be a monster. And then he's gonna make a mess when it comes time to change the oil. But it does fit. Before filling this transmission up, we noticed this rear seal is super hard. We want to go ahead and get it done. This is not the one we had in here. This is a second one that actually came with that one. We know we had a second noisy second gear. This one's probably about the same, but there was a couple $100 for two transmissions. So we know the other one's good. It just needs some bearing work, and it has the wrong size carrier on the front. So this is the right size. Hopefully this one works okay. If it doesn't, we'll mess with that at a later time. It took a little motivation, but it's out of there. Yeah, I feel better having that done so we don't have to worry about it leaking. Looks good. Getting the correct Pontiac power steering pump put in there that you would have seen. Brackets may be a little bit different, but this style pump is what I believe these would have used. Hose bolted right into place. We'll obviously do a new low pressure side because it was dry rotted. But everything is coming together. Man, that thing is shoehorned in there. I am so excited to button up these last few things and fire it up in here. You know we got to run it straight open headers to begin with, right? I'm gonna leave the AC stuff off here for now. Obviously it's winter time anyways, and the biggest thing is this thing needs a core support super bad. It's completely rotted out, and that's why the front end sits a little funny. All the body bushings and everything are super nice still on this car. Front suspension stuff looks nice, but this nose hangs down because this core is rotted out like they all get. So that's something we're gonna have to get on the parts car. It's just as bad. I think any used one we find is gonna be just as bad. They're not crazy expensive, but something we were not prepared to purchase just yet after buying these few parts for the engine. But once we get everything kind of dialed in and going, we'll yank the nose off of this car because I think we have a plan for it anyways. We'll go back on with that Holley 770. I had to bend the pipe a little bit. I'm not going to be able to run this spacer because it would stick out of the hood. It's already up there a ways.
We were definitely concerned with cooling with this built engine. And so doing a little bit of research, you know, the one that came on this thing was tiny, that little itty bitty tiny 2-row. Some had actually had a pretty decent budget friendly 4-row. Hopefully that'll work okay with us and keep this big block nice and cool. It's fitting in so far. We had to do just a little bit of trim up there, but otherwise it fits on the original shroud. We can put our fan in here, get the top on, and we should be moving right along with our cooling system. And I apologize, I said big block. I'm looking at this quite large engine, which is a neutral block, and I keep saying big block. My apologies for that. There was absolutely no way the huge original starter was going to work in here. Not only did it interfere with the header, but it interfered with the Z-bar. Not sure why. It just wasn't going to happen. We had to pick up an aftermarket one, mini high torque, which is going to be good for normal driving anyways. Goes up into place there. Let's get it bolted in. I want to turn the engine over, make sure nothing's interfering. We'll get some cables hooked up. Let's make sure everything seems okay. Plenty of room, no interference with the flywheel. No sparks. Definitely nervous. Time to see if this thing will turn over. Well, I'm not sure what's going on there. We don't have a connection for some reason. I don't know if we got some wires pulled loose when we were taking the motor out or what's going on there, but we'll have to do some troubleshooting. You ready? Starter sounds pretty good. Now before we fire this thing up, let me give you a little bit of idea of some research that I've done. So I was kind of looking up, you know, we've got the 455, that 71 455 punched over with those 78 6X heads. The reason you use that, you've got those smaller combustion chambers. We're looking at like 103, I think it was 104 cc chambers, which puts you around a 9-to-1 compression ratio. From what I've seen with a mild cam punched over stock heads, we're looking at 390 to 400 horse. And that is obviously at the crank. We're not talking about the wheels. With that being said, there's obviously been head work. We've got pretty good sized valves in there, definitely larger than factory, looking at some pictures. And then we have some head work that's been done to fit, because you have to do a little bit of work with these heads and that engine to fit the Performer intake. I'm hoping we're a decent amount over that 400 horsepower range. I think we need to take this thing and put it on the dyno, but let's see if it'll run. Let's test the butt dyno and see how this thing feels. We don't want to wear this starter out. Well, that fuel pump has decided it is no longer any good. Let's run an electric bypass for now until we can get a new one. I guess sitting there a couple months, the fuel pump decided to give up because it was doing nothing. Got our electric fuel pump run through here now, jumped off in the back there. Let's try to fire this thing up. We've run some straight header stuff before, not too long ago. The 302 out there. That was slightly different, way different. Oh my goodness. We went ahead and made up our front pipes here, got them tacked in and welded up. These, of course, are just our single chamber, just like we had before. I did 3-inch this time, so 3-inch out, and we'll kick it down to 2.5, and we'll build the rest of our exhaust. Sorry, my takes the breath out your chest.
let's get these put up so we can at least hear ourselves think. That's obnoxious. Let the cooling system bleed, and then try to hopefully move this thing. So this thing's not quiet. Wow. Dude. See if we have any clutch. This thing's so heavy. Okay, here this goes, I guess. Something you're supposed to do, we did not do, is verify the clutch disc rode smoothly on here. We checked it on the transmission that came out of this car because it's the same one. But as you can see, someone put some goopy black paint. There is some right here. So we think what was actually going on is the clutch was able to release. That's why we were able to roll start it, kind of get going and everything, and then pull it out of gear, and it neutraled. But there was so much pressure pushed onto the flywheel because it was not moving, the disc was not moving smoothly on here, that it acted like it was not releasing. So hopefully we can clean this up. We'll make sure everything works nice and smooth, and if it does, we should be able to go back together and have this thing working right. I mean, I can't feel a release, but it looks good. It looks like it's working just fine. With the drive shaft in, same results. The transmission goes in too easy. Everything feels too smooth. It's in that transmission. I don't know if it can be an adjustment. I'm gonna look over everything again and see if maybe so, but I just don't see it. You'd think it'd be grinding. I mean, it's weird. While it's off, it shifts fine. What in the world? 2 junk transmissions. I guess that's why they were really, really, really cheap. What, $100 a piece? Wasn't that what they were? Yeah. Okay. Noisy second gear transmission is back in there. We had to swap out the front carriers here because they're a different size, which wasn't a big deal. Let's fire this thing up and see if it moves. Still not right. guys are wondering what's going on, we put a stock clutch back in it because that aftermarket one was junk. Yep, it was junk. And tried to take it for a drive, and you just barely pat the pedal. Even in second gear, it blows the tire out from underneath it. And I goosed it again in second gear, and now we no longer have second gear. We need a little more transmission, apparently, I'm guessing, because runs and drives as a built Pontiac, or did. It kind of does. It's just really noisy now. I cannot believe it just did that. And of course, the one time we're not filming, but that made me really sad, so I'm glad I wasn't filming. Finally got it to move under its own power and drive a little bit. No clutch dump or anything. Obviously, it's a brand new clutch. I got to break it in, so we're kind of being easy on it. I just patted the throttle and boom. Good grief. Is what it is. It's a couple $100 transmissions that are now no longer transmissions. I might put noisy second gear back in it just for the heck of it, so we can drive it around, and I guess I'll be even easier on it. Doesn't even have limited slip or pausing in it yet. What in the world is this thing gonna do? There's Dad hanging out with the cows. What'd you do? You know, it did make a little noise on decel.
I heard noise when we were up there.
Yeah, it was gonna go. That right there's just where Dad opened the radiator cap. Oh, it was sounding so good. That car kind of kicking our butt a little bit. We had that transmission out however many times for a junk clutch. Got it back together, and we obviously have a junk transmission.
Crazy, ain't it?
It'll be fun when we get it going. Are we gonna, what do we do? If there's nothing that's gonna be interested in, no way, no way. Yep, sometimes that's just the way it goes. Still in one piece. We're professionals at destroying stuff. You ready? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's go. I just barely got into it. I kind of goosed it, but still, no clutch dump. Imagine if I clutch dumped it. Oh my gosh. You don't need all those gears. You just need some of them. Oh. It had to have something up with it. It sucks. It's such a clean transmission. Do they just rip gears out like that? Is that a thing? With no clutch dump, just a roll into it? Well, I patted it pretty good, but I patted it too much apparently. Wow. I guess we'll just call this whole thing a learning experience. So loud, dumped out right underneath us here. So loud. I'm like half throttle. I'm not even in the secondaries. That's 2 barrel. That's a lot of car. That's a lot of car. Noisy second. It still takes it. A lot better than the other one did. Is that fun or what?
Oh my.
Ready? We're just rolling, rolling, rolling.
Golly.
That's so dumb.
Oh my goodness.
Is that cool or what?
That's funny.
Shatter in it. That's awesome. I'm just glad after all that, we're driving it. That was crazy. Ford. Yep. Not too bad, is it?
Oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah.
You guys think? It's crazy, isn't it? And with that, we are going to call it a wrap before we blow something else up. What a ton of fun. And obviously we paid $500 originally for this car out of the field there, and then we put some into the engine with the intake, so on and so forth, and I was able to sell that for what we had in it, so we were not at a loss there. And then purchasing the other cart, that Grand Prix, so we got the engine, we made money on it, so everything we basically purchased, we purchased for free. So we have a free swap. It ain't one transmission. That second one's probably gonna be eaten pretty quickly. If we leave it in there, we either need to rebuild one or both, or maybe throw something else in there all together. But with that being said, we have so much to go into the interior. I've gotten a lot of little bits and pieces over time, and then we have our parts car that has the rest that we need. And then with the drivetrain in it, I really do feel like at this point, it should be one that we restore. It's not Laredo brown anymore. It's kind of this orangish color that it's been painted over. Let's blow this thing apart, fix the little bit of rust that we have left, and throw a sharp paint job on this thing. Should we go back Laredo? Since it's already been color changed, we do something different. Maybe a Martinique blue, or a dark midnight metallic blue, or a red, or a pearl white, or what? Throw your suggestions down in there. And like I had mentioned, I think a nice set of Rally 2, some 17-inch Rally 2, so we can get some really good tires on this thing, would look really nice. Instead of like snowflakes or something, I'd like to keep that original vibe with just a little bit updated tire size, 17 by 8, 17 by 9. But That car's too much fun. That engine's a little bit too ridiculous. I definitely am eager to potentially see here down the road what kind of power that thing's putting down. We're used to these old boats that are fairly stock with a 4-barrel thrown on them. The Comet is a lot of fun. The Comet's quick, don't get me wrong, but it does not make torque like that. That torque is ridiculous. But I really hope you all have enjoyed. And if you have, you want to see more on this rescue and some of our other rescues and rebuilds, be sure to hit the subscribe button, notification bell to keep up with our future uploads. And if you have been a part of the channel, we do appreciate it so incredibly much. We get to rescue stuff like this. We get to have a lot of fun bringing these things back, and we get to do it because of each and every one of you. So thank you all so much. Peace out, and catch you all on the flip side.